valuable information. We're going to talk next about the practical side of technology. We want to talk about keeping it simple and reducing complexity. And so to help lead that from Affinitiv, I'd like to welcome up Dean Martin. So please give him a big round of applause. He's our Vice President of Marketing with Affinitiv. There you go. Dean, stage is yours. Enjoy. Absolutely.
NADA 2026, how we doing? Let's try that again. NADA 2026, how we doing? All right, I am Dean Martin, VP of Marketing at Affinitiv, and for this session, we are exploring the practical side of technology, keeping it simple and reducing complexity. Joining me on stage are Sharon Kitzman, CEO of Affinitiv, and Rich Lupo, Director of Fixed Ops Director at Appletree Honda. Sharon, Rich, welcome.
Thanks, Dean.
Thank you.
All right, jumping in here. Sharon, you have spent more than 3 decades in automotive.
Thanks, Dean. Makes me sound old.
How would you characterize today's vehicle buyer compared to past cycles?
Well, Dean, as you know, because you did the research, we've recently done a Gen Z buyer research here at Affinitiv, and as part of the outcome of that, lots of information about the buyer. And as part of that research, what we learned is that the buyer these days, they're very value-driven. They do a lot of research before they buy. And one of the things that I think was most interesting about that research is the shift from financing to more of a cash buyer. In fact, we're seeing about a 27% shift, 24% less financing, and 27% more cash. So I think that is showing us just the trend of really not wanting to have that finance payment or that finance credit issue on the books.
Yeah. So there's a massive shift taking place. So, Rich, how does that value-driven mindset affect your fixed ops strategy at Appletree Honda?
Well, value is baked into the Honda and the Acura brands. There are some other OEMs that are not quite as value-driven from that aspect. But what we do at Appletree is take that value that's built into the Honda brand and send that out to our customers and prospective customers, driving value proposition. So things that are easily recognizable by consumers, such as oil changes, wiper blades, batteries, things like that. Certainly tires. We make sure that we are easily, recognizably competitive in those things that you can easily find on the internet. It's a little more difficult to find spark plug and timing belt, things like that, but things that the consumer can really easily compare. We make sure that we're ultra competitive, and we bring that in our marketing strategy to our customers and prospective customers.
Okay, great. So shifting into acquiring those quality trades, Sharon, knowing the value of the pre-owned vehicle market, what should dealers do in 2026 to ensure they acquire quality used trades without having to go the auction?
Yeah, so as the screen shows here, if you're just talking about used vehicles, typically dealers really rely on the CPOs, right? And if you think about that stat where now the vehicle buyer is looking at a 40% increase on non-CPO vehicles, that's a huge shift. And so instead of just going to the auction and looking for quality vehicles there, I think dealers need to look right in their own service drive. And you typically have your history,
Yep.
right? Then
Yes.
you know what types of repairs have been done. You know if that consumer has been bringing that vehicle back to your dealership for those repairs, or going somewhere else. Hopefully you also know the equity that consumer has in that vehicle, and you can make them then a good quality deal and work them into another new car that you have in stock. So I think that's an untapped area for a lot of dealers, and they can really work that angle and leverage that that consumer that they already have in their drive.
Yep. And Rich, on the fixed op side, are you seeing that Gen Z demographic opting for that new vehicle more often than opting for the really expensive repairs?
Well, one thing that we can know about Gen Z is commitment, and there's a big difference between $5,000 or $6,000 repair, putting a transmission in a car, or 60 months at $1,000 a month. And so we recently partnered with one of the most recognizable short-term financing companies to offer that short-term financing for those larger repairs, and we are seeing a lot of success with that. It is something that are opting for more often. The average mileage of the vehicle that we're servicing continues to climb. Original owners are deeper into the trade cycle than we've seen historically, and they come upon eventually a decision point whether they're going to put another, major repair into the vehicle or trade it. And a lot of times we're seeing them opt into the repair and even extending out that trade cycle even further for the customer. So bringing that value, giving them financing options, and working very hard to retain that customer so deep into the trade cycle so that they will be brand and dealer loyal when they finally do make that decision is important to the future of our business like never before.
Absolutely. And so when we talk about differentiating, service competition is tough.
Yes, it is.
Right, and we know that's the case. When we consider service lane technology, what are some of the things that dealers can do to differentiate themselves from the competition?
Well, we've always had some built-in advantages. We've got beautiful marble floors and leather couches and tidy bathrooms and tiled service drives and people in uniforms, and so we've always been able to differentiate ourselves with that, but also bringing technology. We have a 24-hour drop-off kiosk that we have. You can come inside the store, climate-controlled, secured, and check your keys in. The communication technologies, meeting the customer if they want to be texted, emailed, phone calls, automatic updates sent out through the system, a high level of communication, and then just making sure that the value is there, as well as extending it past an oil change, but letting them know if there is something more in depth, that we have the competent professionals that can fix it correctly the first time, and it's backed up by the warranty and the dealer network. So there's a bunch of different ways that we can differentiate ourselves from our competition: communication levels, technology, convenience, and competency.
Yeah, I can tell you from my experience, like one of the big things for me is I know my service advisor by name. I always go to Joey. He's my guy. He makes sure I have my loaner. He knows I always need a loaner. And so customers having that, for instance, is obviously huge. Sharon, what do you think differentiates dealers that are really nailing it with best service experience?
Yeah, I think a lot of professionals now have the work from anywhere kind of mentality, and so more of them are staying at the dealership as well, with the laptops and the Wi-Fi and all the amenities that you just mentioned.
Right.
But I love, when the advisor comes out with the laptop or the tablet and shows me the video that the technician just took while they were walking around.
That's huge.
Walking around the vehicle, and shows me the brake pad or the frayed harness, and I can see what's actually going on with the vehicle versus just being told a little red, yellow, green kind of a MPI, and I can actually see the video or the pictures versus just being told what was wrong with the vehicle. I think that transparency is going a long way with the consumers, and I talk to a lot of the manufacturers, and I know that they're hearing that in the surveys as well, back from the consumers at the retailers or the dealerships that are really taking that seriously.
So let's shift gears into economic uncertainty. So Sharon, how does economic uncertainty factor into everything that we've just discussed?
It's a huge factor, and let's be honest, the political climate here today is, one day it's up, one day it's down, right? we flip-flop a little bit in our country right now, and that weighs heavily on the consumer, especially in the Gen Z arena, where maybe they don't have a lot of disposable income, and they're not sure about where the next paycheck might come from, or whether buying a house or renting is in their future, or buying a new vehicle, or a used vehicle is in their future. And so making that next decision, and which one is it going to be, and how am I going to pay for that is a huge factor. And as the stat says, 66% increase in customers saying they're just not sure about what decision they're going to make next, and how they're going to feel certain about that. And so it's a huge number.
Yeah.
And when is it going to end? It's probably not going to end anytime soon, and that's a huge impact in our industry right now.
It is 100%. I'll add on to that and say that we have the ability, with all of the information that's out there and all the different channels, to define ourselves. And if you don't make that information available to the consumer, who does a ton of research, we know how much research they do. If you're not putting that stuff out there, then you're likely to be defined either by your competition or by lack of information for them to do the research. So when you are at the market level, whether it's the Google, the AI, any of those kinds of things, you have to be able to put your information out there to help to define who you are for those consumers, and give them more information to help them make those decisions.
For sure. And with those Gen Z service customers, are you seeing some of those younger customers opting for service financing, for instance, for those larger, expensive repairs?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, prices have, our costs have driven huge over the last 5 years. Costs are up, retail prices are up, and the average mileage of the car we're servicing is up, and all of those factors combined to, customers that very often are looking at substantial repairs. And when you have the ability to offer them something that's very simple, seamless, a quick scan of a QR code, and you're putting all of your information into your phone, not filling out papers, or handing somebody a weird iPad that they've never seen before to put all their information in, doing it private, and then giving them the options. It has certainly become a large part of our business, especially for large repairs. And you do the analytics on it. It's also a retention tool. Once they use that and it's a good experience, you're likely to retain them in the future.
So getting into AI, I mean, you walk the expo here at NADA, you cannot help but hear AI mentioned everywhere.
Absolutely.
So Sharon, knowing there's still that uncertainty, how can dealers prepare for that game plan and leveraging AI without fear or dread or confusion?
Well, first of all, I think you have to just assume that your consumer is using it. You have to assume they're using it almost in every interaction that you have with them at some level. And you also have to assume that while they're using it, they may not be getting accurate information, right? They may be using it to assess what your labor rate should be, and it might be wrong.
Yep.
They might be using it to assume or assess what your parts price should be, and it might be wrong.
Yep.
And you might be having to educate them along the way, and do it in a nice way.
Yeah.
And a patient way. So you have to do that. But you should also be looking for a partner, a technology partner, a vendor, but a partner who is leaning into AI in a very paced way, in a very intelligent way, doing their research as well, and partnering with their dealers and their retailers in looking for ways that they can use AI in partnering with you to drive efficiency and productivity into the friction points in the processes in the dealership.
Yeah, and Rich, from what you've seen, what role has AI played, and how has it surprised you in unique and interesting ways?
So we have been very interested. We've interviewed multiple AI companies with AI solutions for different things. We actually partnered this past year with a company that took a look at how we schedule service appointments, and we've seen a 10x increase in the amount of online appointments. We did not realize how much friction was in the process, because it's the way we always made online appointments.
Yep.
So that we were able to rethink that and saw a 10x increase, dramatic increase in the number of online appointments right away. That same technology company is working on a solution right now so that we can connect with customers who are going to be in the mobile service market, and we are announcing that in partnership, and Appletree, Honda, and Acura are going to be the first in the country to deploy that technology, and we're going to be, if not the first, one of the very first standalone Honda and Acura mobile services providers, and we're going to reach our customers at an even higher level of convenience, which is certainly part of unlocking that loyalty and retention to our customers. So it has played a huge part in some advances in our business, but we have not gone dealership-wide at this point. We've been waiting for the right technology as it's maturing in leaps and bounds, every day.
Excellent. All right, final word. I'll give you each 30 seconds for looking ahead at your biggest takeaway for dealers over the next 12 to 24 months. Sharon, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think it's there on the screen. Consumers are looking for trust at the dealership. Obviously, there's a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of places they can take their vehicle for service. There's a lot of places you can buy a vehicle, not a new vehicle, but consumers aren't always looking for a new vehicle these days. So trust, transparency, and value are the keys, I think, in today's economic environment, and with all the information that a consumer can get online, especially with the AI boom that's going on right now.
Yeah.
All right, Rich?
We like to call it, at a Honda dealership, one accord. Sorry. But if you don't have, if your service department's not talking to your parts department, if your sales is not talking to your service, or if there's walls there and you don't have unity and cross-pollination, you're more than ever going to be susceptible to leakage because the customer does have so many choices. So if your service customer wants a trade appraisal, let's get them trade appraisal. If they need short-term financing, let's go. If whatever needs to happen across departments, those channels need to be established and have unity inside. Whether we're talking about trades on the service drive or any of those kinds of things, you have to have unity within the store.
Yep. It's all about that customer experience and
Yep.
efficiency. All right. Well, I'd like to thank you both for joining me on stage today. Sharon Kitzman, CEO of Affinitiv. Rich Lupo, Appletree Honda. Thank you both for joining me. Be sure to visit Affinitiv booth 1543 to learn more about industry-leading software for marketing, sales, service, and retention. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you.
High packet value is driven by data.
Driven by verification and facts.